So we're used to descending fifths, Pachelbel, these kinds of things, right? Those are sequences we're comfortable with. Now we're adding chromaticism, so now you've got to stay true to the quality of the chord, right? So remember, if it's spelled as a dominant 7, that is a 5 of something. Unfortunately now that means it can also move chromatically. So this sequence they've got in this example here, right? All of these are dominant 7s, but they are literally just stepping up, right? Well, so the top notes are stepping down. This guy is doing what we would love to say is a descending fifths, right? But now we've got all this chromatic gnarly on it, right?
Yeah.
So, and also this voice exchange. So for those of us who thought that Mozart was, you know, calm, cool, collected, and demure, not so much.
He's a freak.
Let's see if I can find this quickly.
What? Oh.
Oh, I thought you wanted me to.
Yeah, we actually do want you to.
I can never tell his voice note. I don't think that was a thing.
Third movement.
Like, Korean reading was barely a thing.
This is cool.
You asked for it. Here it is.
It's a lot of.
Hey, I think you're missing that. Up
Hey, so I already got that. Actually, nothing's happening right now.
Hi guys, welcome to my vlog.
Are you gonna
No choice.
Just start uploading it to
What's that?
So here's how chromatic it already is. Do you mean like in the bass?
In the view.
So that's the bit. So you hear how the voice is above. So the bass is doing a descending fifth, right? Down a fourth, up a fifth, except the violins up above that are doing.
Oh.
That's freaky.
Okay? So these chromatic additions. These chromatic additions are stuff that we're going to start to pay attention for, okay?
Okay.
And unfortunately, because they are so chromatic, instead of a nice descending fifth number where we get to be like, it's squared in Roman numerals that we know. Shenanigans now.
Yeah, those are all dominant.
Okay?
Okay.
So, fortunately, in a lot of analysis, you do get to just go, it's a descending fifth sequence with chromatic embellishment. A lot of the time, though, they need the Roman numerals, so it's going to get weird looking like that, okay? If you've got the time, when in doubt, reductions can be helpful. When you break it down into a piano score, sort of like they did, it makes it a little easier to see.
So how would you break it down into like piano score?
Uh,
Or like what does that mean?
Yeah, can you show us an example, please?
So, I'm going to take the important notes, right? I'm essentially just going to write them as whole notes.
Like
right?
keyboard notation.
Yeah, just translate whatever it is into keyboard notation,
Oh.
and that way you've got just something simpler to look at.
Because it's just G's and C sharps.
Right. So in this situation, this makes it easier, right? Because the harmony's moving by the bar. So if it's moving by the measure, then I only have to write whole notes. Life is good. When it's smashed into like multiple quarter notes or multiple eighth notes a measure, right? If it's a quick moving sequence, it can still help but expanding it into something like this is sometimes a little trickier. So it really just depends, right? This is an option. You can boil it out into something like this as a step, just to make it easier to see.
And so the viola just wasn't important in that?
No, it's A.
The viola's essentially part of the cello line, right? Because, so A, octaves, octaves,
This is at the bottom.
yeah, it's all, yeah.
Okay.
The viola and the cello are essentially on the same notes.
Makes sense.
So, yeah. Let's see. So just like in this sequence, right, the chromatic descent was up top. Yeah?
Okay.
And that way everything's in root position.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
If we descend chromatically on bottom, the roots will still be doing that descending fifth thing, but now we're in inversion. Remember what we would call those descending fifths where we were like alternating 6-3 or alternating 6-5, those kinds of things? Same maneuver.
Yeah, what's the exclamation point for?
Let's see.
Factorial.
Factorial.
They're just so excited.
Sorry.
Let's see. Not totally sure I do know the exclamation point.
Is it just two?
I've never used it.
Maybe they're just really excited about it.
Maybe it is factorial.
Is it because they're not like a part of the?
Maybe they're Spanish.
But then I'd have an upside down.
You need-
one.
yeah.
Yeah, well, it is, it's flipped.
Wait a
B
second.
flat, B flat.
The letter.
I'm dead. Thinking outside the box. She's on the phone.
That was pretty good, Sydney. That was really good, yeah.
Dang. I think it's that this is our mode mixture and it's a deceptive either way.
Or we could do this.
Yeah.
I like that option.
So, yep, that's kind of what the sequences are gonna run into, yeah?
Yeah.
And because the sequences get so much more complicated, you're gonna run into some weird modulations.
Cute.
Oh.
So, remember when I said look for accidentals? Now everything's gonna have an accidental, right? Basically. So what you have to start looking for is the consistency of those accidentals.
Okay.
And keep in mind, right? So we got comfortable figuring out when we had modulated a 5 or 4, or the relative minor or major, because those are minimal moves, right? Those don't involve too much. It's usually through a pivot chord, might add an accidental. We've since added flat 3, flat 6, minor 4, all that stuff, right? It gets bizarre. So start looking for those key signatures in relation to your home key also. Basically, it's the consistency and duration of the accidentals. So, let's see. A few other kinds of chromatic sequence. Oh yeah, and now we also start getting, so there were a few different kinds of modulation we talked about, right? Pivot chord, direct, and common tone, yeah? So now, instead of just common tone, common dyad. Two notes. If I've got two notes out of a triad that I can share with something else, change that mode, life is good. Dyad, two notes, right?
Triad.
Yes.
What's next?
So, if I'm running along in C minor and I've got this minor 6 chord, I got those two notes.
Okay.
I can use those two notes in an Italian 6 chord in a different key.
Oh.
So, in here, it's 1 and 3. In here, That's 1 and flat 6.
Oh.
Because in E major, I would have C sharps, right? Right. So if I got C naturals, there's my lowered 6. All I gotta do is hit sharp 4.
Which is the chromatic motion.
And there's our chromatic motion, which we can then take to a 5.
So, I'm guessing that in the book, they're not gonna give us the new key in some of them, or are they gonna give us the new
It'll be a combo.
Like, how do you know what key you went into?
Honestly, so again, I look for consistency in the accidentals, and then I listen to it. And I go, oh, the keys.
So you're looking for cadences?
Do you have to yell?
Yes.
What if I just want
That's a case.
you sneeze and
over
it's like,
there.
it's a pack.
So then,
I love that. That's
a lot of the mechanics that we've dealt with before, right? So voice exchanges, remember when we were drawing the X's, when you had one voice go 3, 2, 1, and the other voice went 1, 2, 3? So you had that voice exchange between the outside. That stuff is still happening, it's just happening with chromaticism now. Okay, and you can use that to orient yourself, that stuff will help.
You're lucky I recorded all of it.
Oh, so you can stop recording because everyone's here.
Where we start to get kind of fun is the common tone, diminished, and augmented 6 chords. These are not creatively named. The common tone diminished is going to share a common tone with the chords surrounding it, yeah? So in this example,
probably
G is the 5th / root / right? It's in every chord. So they keep that G, they slam all the notes up underneath it to make it a diminished 7. And then they come back out. Now, if we were to analyze this strictly, right? You would have some sort of weird, because it's like a 7 diminished of 7 type thing, right? Which in analysis doesn't make a lot of sense, right? This is where you have to start trusting your gut. If that seems too weird, it probably is. So they just went, common tone diminished.
Question mark?
Common tone diminished 7. CT, common tone.
Oh my goodness.
So write all of that out? Or do we just?
Oh no, just the common tone.
Okay,
So in this situation, right, so what the book is showing you is that this is stupid.
okay.
I'm in
That's
C
my
major
question.
and somehow I've got a 7 diminished 7 in B major, which is dumb. That makes no sense. I'm in the key of C. However, this G does hang through the entire time.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna call that a common tone diminished 7. Because remember when we first learned them, how I said diminished 7 chords are some of the most powerful chords in classical music?
Stop.
Here's an example of why. Right? I can keep a common tone. And it'll sound okay. So, an example of this. So this is in Ich wolle nicht.
Oh, that's how you pronounce it.
I would know.
Glad we were recording that.
Wolle nicht.
I strongly dislike it when people say itch. It always bothers me.
So, I'm gonna see if I can find. They're all white guys.
What's your name?
Ich
essentially, all he's doing here is hammering 5, right? If I were to listen, right? It's just an extension of the dominant part, right? So all it is a chromatic extension of that, right? So by having that 5 pedaled over, I can add chromatic motion, go common tone diminished seventh, right? A lot of the time you will see it at a pedal point, a dominant pedal. Or in like if somebody's really gonna hang out on the tonic forever and ever, amen.
Bad music.
You've got a chromatic option, right? And it's just a common tone diminished seventh. That's really all it is. Okay? I know a lot of this stuff seems gross. It's okay. And we can do the same thing with the augmented 6 chords. Common tone augmented 6, right? Same maneuver, different chord.
When you're writing that, you said you do not have to put all the extra embellishments like diminished seventh.
Nah, I just say it's common tone diminished.
Okay.
Right? Or common tone augmented. Right? They don't even specify which one. They just say it's a common tone augmented.
So the common tone was built off the C sharp, E, and then G, right? Like that
So the
one.
common tone was G.
But it was G, right?
So they use G as the common tone, adjust the chord around it, and then come back to
So
something
could it
that fits in
be-
our harmony.
Could the common tone be like E, G, and then E flat?
Yup.
As diminished? Or G, B flat,
Correct.
B flat?
Yeah, so as long as G is a member of the diminished 7 chord, it can be any of them. Yup.
Okay.
Which composers take full advantage of to have chromatic motion going different places. What's up?
Oh, how do you spell it with scale degree numbers?
You wouldn't, because it's based strictly on what common tone is present.
It would just be like CT instead of a number.
Because if I'm going on, so if I've got a G, right? G could be the root of the chord, in which case I'd have, oh, sorry. G could be the root of the 7, in which case I'd have G, B flat, D, F, or B flat, D flat, F flat, right? Those would be the notes present. If G was instead the 3rd, then I would have E, G, B flat, D flat. If G was the 5th of the 7th chord, I'd have D flat, C flat, or C sharp, E, G, B flat, and then B flat, D flat, F flat, A double flat. But that's still the common tone.
Dang. And harmonic now.
So you can have it enharmonically respelled too, right? That's why the fully diminished 7 chord is such a ridiculously powerful chord.
Okay. And it's gonna, in stuff like this, the common tone is either gonna be diminished seventh or augmented 6. More often
Most of
than
the
not.
time.
And augmented meaning like it can also be fresh
I'll get through that.
not just.
Yeah, but they don't feel, you don't have to feel the need to specify. If it's a common tone augmented, you just go, it's common tone augmented.
Okay.
Because German, French, and Italian, those all imply function, right? Those are all predominants.
Right.
So you don't necessarily have to specify.
Okay.
With the common tone, does it have to be the 5th?
No.
So it could be any common tone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yay. Let's go.
Yup, a lot of the time it is the 5th, but it does not have to be.
Okay.
It just has to be a common tone.
That's why you could have been the 1.
The 5th and the root tend to sound the best because those are the things that it's easiest for the audience to grasp onto usually throughout the rest of the piece. So if you're gonna mess with stuff and you're gonna keep a common base to come back to, easier to keep it at the strongest parts of the chord, right? If you start messing around based on the 3rd, you start risking the audience going,
Because it can sound like a different.
I don't know
key,
where
right?
you went. And you start ending up with split 3rd stuff, which we're not gonna get to
The
until the next
third
couple of
has
chapters.
harmonic, or has like the harmonic thing of the scale, right? Or the chord.
No, the 3rd just tells us major or minor, right? The 3rd doesn't tell us root, the 3rd doesn't tell us, the 3rd doesn't tell us enough early in the harmonic series, versus the root and the 5th are stacked on top of each other for the first 3 harmonics.
So it's like
So it's just an our ears respond to physics thing,
No.
I think. Kind of, sort of?
Yeah.
So,
That's what I was doing in my head.
But like,
That's
that would be
crazy.
wicked, like, they probably.
because the other thing is they can share multiple common towns, right? So remember that common dyad.
Right, right.
Dyad,
That's the thing.
dyad. What is it called, a dyad?
So,
Diagonally.
I would snag a picture of this.
Already on it.
Only because this serves as the reminder of like, especially rule number 7, right? The enharmonic respelling, man. Stuff's gonna start getting really tricky. Okay? But we are close. This is about as gnarly as it gets.
For now.
And after this, we jump into atonal, and then it's just math.
Yay!
I miss math.
And then it's just the clock, and all you have to worry about is the clock.
The
So-
claw.
Let's see.
Yep.
Oh,
That's exactly what you think it is.
Like I'm not always worried about the
So,
It's time to play the good.
those, so
Oh, that
common
name
tone and common dyad are kind of the only new mechanics we're adding.
Right.
What's happening now is they're taking everything we have learned in tonal theory and slamming it together. Okay? You now have the mechanics to analyze anything up to the Romantic era. You felt like if you could analyze Mahler, Wagner, you have the tools now. You could analyze one too, though.
If I wanted to.
And what if I don't want?
Me with another theory for my 6th graders.
Whenever I'm playing the flute, I listen.
Like, so this is this.
And it's because, so after this, right? After this, we get into atonal. We get into set theory.
Yay.
I thought
So
we
this,
Negative harmony.
this is your last tonal chapter. So,
Something so sad about this.
Can I throw this at your forehead?
No.
how about we do some analysis together?
Yay.
Shall we do something off of the first page? Together?
That's why I have to in my lunch.
Just to keep ourselves from having a conniption or a heart attack?
It's for my lunch.
This is gonna be such a weird recording of class.
No, this is gonna be a regular class.
Today's theory lecture featuring the point 5.
1.5.
I almost made you take the wrong one.
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well,
See
on.
a single word on that screen.
Yeah. Well, I have. I can zoom in.
That would have been bad.
No, it's a great recording.
You're never gonna be hired as a cinematographer. Make the recordings great again.
Oh.
Hey.
Yeah, get out, bud.
That was pretty fun.
Yeah, because the recording sucks.
Did you get that, Jaden? Pause it. Let's look at the answer.
They said that to me.
I'm sending it to all y'all.
All y'all.
All y'all.
All y'all.
All of you all.
You guys.
All y'all.
Guys. Yes. All yous.
The theory 2 kids started 4 species counterpoint.
Aw, so cute.
Did they
Oh, wait till
They're
they
talking to
start
me.
crying.
yeah, of course.
I'm like, oh, y'all don't know.
Just
yet."
like you guys did.
Yeah. Oh, it is worse.
I still freak out about counterpoint.
It's in my dreams sometimes. I'm like,
Name one counterpoint rule other than parallel force and fifths.
So you actually can't have a fort. It's like
So maybe you
Species.
should brush up. It's 2, 4, and 6.
So,
Right?
2. No, there's no
You can't
2.
have 6.
It's
Exactly, you can't
3,
have 2.
5, 6.
That's what I'm talking about. You can't have 2, 4,
Oh.
and 6.
You can't have 6. You can't have 7.
fix it.
I mean, like you.
Oh, you can't have 6, 6, 6.
Whoa.
whoa.
Exactly.
You're going to hell.
Whoa.
Hey.
Like a peasant using a tritone.
anyway,
You know what?
so
Bonk.
they already gave us. They already gave us that, right? So, let's take a look at this next downbeat.
Yep.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So we've got, what note is that on bottom?
C.
We got a C. We've got G,
E.
E flat, right?
Yep.
So we're in the key of G minor. So that downbeat is just what?
4.
That's just a 4 chord, right? Oh.
Wait.
We're in G minor. So that's just a 4 chord. Oh, there's an idea.
But then it goes to F sharp.
So then, this next beat, right? Well, you can already see it.
Why are we don't clip that?
So, for this next
I'm
beat,
streaming on
right,
Twitch right
that
now.
C holds,
Yes.
and then
FAC.
I'm not gonna include that B flat, because
Right.
I don't think that's part of the chord.
Right.
But I do have an F sharp and an A natural there,
A and G.
right?
Yeah.
Well, but the G has the G function.
Isn't it just a passing, probably?
G's just a neighbor, right? Because we pop right back up there.
I see. Okay.
So I'm not gonna bother including that G. So yeah, this is just an F sharp diminished. Let's see.
Why is it in 4/3?
So 4/3 would mean what?
That is a 7 chord.
That it's a 7 chord. Do we think? So why would they argue that the audience would hear that as a 4/3?
Because the E that was just played in this top voice?
Because the E flat. They're figuring that E flat would hold, right? They're figuring the audience would continue with that E flat. Maybe not, sort of depends.
So if we just wrote it as a second inversion triad, that'd be fine?
Yeah, that would also be fine. And then we take a look at this last chord here. We got F sharp, A, and C. And the E's gone now, right? Or excuse me, the C, so that C's out.
Yep.
And this is where I disagree, right? Because they say this E flat would carry, but by here it's definitely gone, so that's where they go to a 5/3. So this would just be a 7 diminished in root position because the F sharp's on bottom. So because that C's on bottom there, you could argue that it goes from a 7 diminished 6/4
Yeah.
to a 5/3, right? Because 6/4 is our second inversion of a triad.
Wait.
So you could argue that.
Okay.
6/4 to 5/3.
Yeah.
I don't fully agree with the 7 chord
It's silly.
because this E flat rhythmically does not carry.
How would you, okay, so would you just write it basically like that similar format if it's the same chord but changing inversion? You would just put line 5/3?
Yeah. So mine would look 7 diminished 6/4 5/3. Mine would look like that.
Is
Yeah.
it possible there's a typo?
That's
Because the
an
soprano
or.
part just doesn't have anything.
Right, except I look at the stems and the next up stem is there. What?
Yeah. That's a lot. That's a huge jump, right?
Yeah.
Well, so this
That's
is a thing where you go, is it a typographical error? And that is supposed to hold through. Or,
But then where's the alto part?
right, something goes away.
They're just taking.
Slash, it's in 3 voices essentially, right?
Yeah.
Except here we add this, so it goes back to 3, something funky is happening there. So I'm not totally sure. That, again, like I said in the lecture, this is where you get to start backing up the point.
Can we call up Randall and ask him?
I
think
he could, I don't think he'd answer.
We don't know anymore.
I think the soprani are joining the altos there.
He's been dead a while, at least I hope he has, because they buried him a long time ago.
Get your code.
What if he's just still chilling in his chamber?
That
Like
would be
Nosferatu.
alarming.
That was for Reef too.
Regardless, let's go ahead and check out this next downbeat here. So we've got D,
Yep, G, B, B
G, we got B flat.
That's a one.
Yeah, so that's pretty solidly a one chord, right?
Yeah, second version, not hers.
Except, second inversion, 1-6-4.
Credentials?
Is it a credential?
Is it a cadential 6-4? Let's take a look at the next chord. D, F sharp, A.
It's fine.
That's a cadential
Oh.
6-4 going to a 5.
Lame.
And there's that stupid notation that I hate, because this isn't actually a 5 chord, it's a cadential 6-4.
It always
So,
messes me up.
5-3 means it's in like root position, right?
Root position.
Okay. I just wanna make sure.
Yep.
G.
Because.
Is it, why did they just do that so they could write it with the 6-4 going 5-3?
Yes. The point of this notation is to point out these suspensions.
Okay.
But it's not even.
But as a harmonic analysis, it's dumb.
If we had written CAD 6-4 to 5-3, would that be fine?
I would have accepted, well, so you'd write CAD 6-4 5.
Okay, yeah. CAD 6-4, 5.
So you would go,
CAD 6-4.
Meow, 6-4.
that's what you would do. Right? That's it.
Would it be lowercase then, cause it's one minor one, right? Or? does that not matter?
No, just cadential 6-4.
Okay, cause I was gonna say, that's one thing I thought was weird too, they wrote big 5, 6-4, I'm like, but it's not even major.
Right.
So-
5 chord is,
But that's not, yeah, but it's not a 5 chord.
but it's not a 5 chord.
And the
So
five
that's why I
chords-
hate that notation. Anyway,
That's
we've
weird.
got our CAD 6-4 going to a 5.
Yes, sir.
And then, do we eventually go back to a 1 chord?
D.
Yeah, let's say
Yes.
Yeah, downbeat,
Yes.
downbeat of 80 is in fact a 1 chord.
Ah, okay.
And then
the upbeat of 80 is.
our G holds,
It does.
but that second eighth note's worth is what chord?
It's the
An F sharp A C, right?
It's the seventh.
So if I've got,
I'm sorry, why is there no?
if I've got a G, an F sharp, an A, and a C,
Can they just be called into chromatic?
what the heck is going on there?
What the hell?
Go down?
It's a common tone, but which common tone is it?
G. Yeah,
With C?
G.
No, hold on, I'm no. No, not.
Yeah,
C,
stays
G.
the same.
Yeah.
Probably be the C,
Yes, I wasn't done.
but they don't bother analyzing.
Yes. What's what's
Yeah, it's just a funny tone.
Could that just be chromatic passing? Go back.
Yeah, you could also just call it chromatic.
Well, yeah, cause
What
it
C
goes.
though?
It's a neighbor.
It's C.
It's a chromatic
of
nature.
course. Where is the C?
How is that?
Where's the common tone? Like, there's no from the first.
No, like,
Where is the C?
G is 5 of C, so
So,
like, remember how I was saying it's part of
This
the
G holds through, right?
Yes.
That G is rhythmically holding all the way through to this.
Yes.
So that G rhythmically is happening during this chord. So that's the common tone.
Oh,
so
you
C
said
is
C.
Oh, I said C. My
Yeah, I was
bad.
I was like, what?
G is the common tone.
Okay.
My bad.
I was like, bro,
Yeah,
what's?
we were all confused
I was
there for a
tripping.
second.
Sorry.
I was
G
actually.
is the common tone.
I was
So
like,
we
there's a
got
C in there, yeah.
common
I was
So
like,
you
No,
could
of
put
C,
the
like,
common
it belongs
tone
with C,
augmented
G is
six.
the common tone.
If you
Like,
wanted,
I
you
knew it
could
was
put
the same the
CT
whole time.
augmented 6 here.
So why don't you speak up?
If
Huh?
you want.
Why don't you speak up?
Because I don't wanna talk right now.
A natural.
What are you doing right now?
hurt. What am I doing right now? I'm suffering.
Oh, baby.
So that's the
like it.
let me
Let me
we're sort of
bring
dealing
you-
with here, right?
Let me be.
Now,
Say, Jake.
let's do it
I hear you like a villain.
in this first variation.
I'm scared.
Or I guess the first variation they asked me. So, we've got B flat, D.
Yep, no F, but.
This is the 40-minute
Well, so what are they implying there?
It's a bit.
Yeah, I mean, that it's B flat and D natural. So it's
First
a
minor third. Or,
major third.
Surprised I haven't.
I don't understand.
Huh?
It's still the start of a variation.
Okay,
So
so.
one has to
G,
be-
B, D, oh.
Still probably implying a 1 chord.
Because you always start with one, and you end with.
Do you think it also could be written that way because the very last note from measure 80 was also G? So kind of like how in 78, the E was figured to suspend over?
Yeah, depending on what comes before it, yes.
Okay.
But the other thing is, this is the start of the variation. The
Alright.
start of the variation is gonna establish the
Hold
time,
up. I'm so confused. Why is it in first member?
because B flat's on bottom.
How do we know we're in minor? Cause it ends in minor?
Because the piece is in,
Well, it starts on B flat, so I thought it was B flat major.
It's a part,
B flat.
this is measure 85.
It's a variation.
oh, I see what you're saying.
The ending, it ends on
Yeah,
bottom.
it's just 5 measures after what we just did.
I didn't realize it was the same thing.
Yeah, it's continuing.
I thought it was a completely different thing.
So, our next chord, we've got B natural instead of B flat. B natural at A flat.
The D still holds over, doesn't it?
And the D is still involved.
Okay.
So B natural,
How come that D
B, D, F,
I
and
was
A
gonna ask
flat.
that, yeah.
It's all,
Oh, so
it's
you got
diminished.
is there a typo? The half note should not suspend the whole measure. Should it have a dot?
Again, voicing. This is a fairly common thing in keyboard music, where eventually, because it's just tied over, they're like, you know.
Okay.
I mean, I get it.
Slash, there's probably a dot missing from this note.
That's what we were thinking.
That's,
Okay.
that's it. Regardless,
It's fully
No,
diminished.
because it's tied over, we can assume that it does hold.
Right.
So we've got a B fully diminished 7,
Yeah.
right? Which is 7 of,
C,
which in the key of G is 4, so we could call it a 7 of 4. Except, do we go to a 4 chord?
C,
Yeah.
D, C, D,
G, yeah.
B
You
flat.
do. You could.
C, G, B flat. So you could argue. Let's see what they say.
7 of 5.
Yay.
Sure did. Now, if this didn't go to a 4 chord, because we do end up with a C, E, that D is, I would argue, a suspension on account of we're tied over and it resolves to C there.
That makes sense.
I think that's a 9/8 suspension. We got C, E, and B flat. We just omitted the 5th, right?
Yeah,
So
okay.
this is a C chord.
Yeah.
So we could say that this is a 7 of 4. If I instead came back to a 1 chord here, what would you call
Just calm.
it? A common tone diminished because
You go back to the one.
D's chilling the whole time.
Oh, yeah, 'cause it's in that chord and
So just
the
one.
one.
Would that be the common tone?
Okay.
That would be the common tone in
That's
that
5.
case,
And that would be over.
right? So we go to this 4 chord, except it's a dominant 7,
Stop.
right?
You guys done under 11, is that correct?
We're done in a minute.
In a minute, okay, sorry, alright, then I have my kids finishing up history, but there's a class that's gonna be in that room after, so I'm gonna migrate them in here, if
Yeah.
that's okay?
Yep.
Okay, when you guys are done, alright, thank you, so I'm gonna ask y'all if y'all will, quick, is it recording me?
I'm recording the whole lecture.
Oh, okay.
Whoa.
This has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
We got 1 minute.
But how could it
Okay,
be
keep
a
going.
minor chord if there's no G in the first beat?
Well, the C suspends all the way over to that G as well.
He's talking about
Oh, that one? Oh, okay, sorry.
There's no,
So,
there's no G in there.
It's
So
it's
that's-
implied.
That's-
It's implied from previous.
If it's not there, it's not there.
So the establishing, so this is the beginning of a variation. The beginning of a variation is always going to establish time.
It is not fun.
So in the context of the piece, we would have established G minor, so it would be assumed.
Your ear would hear it. Okay.
Yep. So we've got a C, except it's a C dominant 7. Oh no, it's a C minor 7 because of B flats.
Yeah.
So minor 4, they didn't bother including the B flat, even though they could have.
Oh,
So then-
it is.
We've got.
I got
So then, our next set of notes, right? This C holds through.
Yeah.
We got G, we got E flat, we got C.
C, E flat, G, but it's.
Oh, yeah, so the A is just passing, right?
A is probably a passing. C, E flat,
G.
G, and then maybe they had the B flat there.
Puts 2 in first.
Sure did. Why did they call that a 2? They called this an A chord?
Yeah.
Oh, so they used the B flat and the A. So they used the B flat and the G as the passing. Well,
was
since
the
it goes to
off beats,
5,
right?
Mm-hmm.
because it does go to the 5 chord, right? You got D, F sharp, A, C. So it does end on a 5/7. So to keep it consistent, they analyze this as another predominant.
That's the common tone.
Which makes sense.
So-
AC and.
Right. So what they've done here then is they've analyzed the B flat and the G as passive tones.
Okay, and either way would be fine then, I guess, or?
Either way, to me, would be legitimate because you'd have a 4, a 4/7 going to a 5.
This is gonna kill me, cause I have like a brain that has to have like absolutes, and then like the thing
Yeah.
of like having to argue, I'm gonna die, I'm
Yeah.
never gonna do my homework, I'm really sorry.
It's all good.
It's like being
That's-
told 3 plus 3 is 5.
That's why this one. Well, no. The argument is 3 plus is I could say that 6 is either 3 plus 3 or 3 times 2.
Give me
Which
that.
one is
It's
more
still
correct?
It depends on the context.
Right.
This is like English.
Alright.
You're like analyzing